Welcome to Stillwater Edge, the ultimate podcast for stillwater fly fishing enthusiasts. I'm your host, Greg Keenan, and in each short, action-packed episode, I'll share expert tips, essential techniques, and clever tricks to help you elevate your stillwater fly fishing game to the next level. Hey guys, welcome to Stillwater Edge podcast. I am your host, Greg Keenan, and today's episode is all about unlocking the secrets of deep water tactics for catching trout. Whether you're targeting those big cruisers hanging at 20, 30, or even 40 feet, we've got the tools, strategies, and insights to help you become more successful as an angler. We'll explore why trout head to the deeper water, discuss the effective fishing methods, and share tips to elevate your game on stillwater for the deep water. All right. Anyone that knows me, I love to jump into the why. So why did trout go to the deeper water? So trout head to the deeper water because they're cold water fish. And as the surface temperature heats up, they need to go to the colder water. That's where they're comfortable. That's where the trout is happy. So they seek deeper water when the surface water is warming up. So those layers offer them that. Also, they seek it for oxygen-rich zones as well. And that's just sort of their environment that they're into. They're also, when their trout are in the deeper water, there's food sources that are available to trout that are, while they're down there. So that makes them more comfortable in their zone. And some of those food sources in those deeper waters actually have an abundance, and that's zooplankton, chironomids, scuds, leeches, baitfish. A lot of food sources are available in the deep water, not as abundant as the shallows, but still there's food sources down there which can make a trout very happy. The final reason why, in my opinion, trout head to the deeper water is it offers protection from predators, loons, eagles, whatever's eating your trout, really. And especially on like these bright, clear days where in the shallows, they're so exposed. So a trout, if it feels threatened, will retreat to the deeper water. Absolutely. But the key is as anglers, how do we fish to trout that are in 40 feet of water? Because it's a bit more difficult than when we're fishing in shallows. So we need to change our tactics for success. And changing our tactics for success starts with the gear we're going to use. Making sure we have the right gear. So two of the easiest things for right gear. I mean, you have your rod, you have your reel. That's definitely going to work. But do you have the lines? So you want full sink lines. When you're fishing that deep, full sink lines are all you really need to get down that far. And that's basically anywhere from a type 3 to a type 7 sink line. That's ideal for getting from 20 to 40 to 50 feet down. Absolutely ideal. You can do various presentations, but that is what's going to work well. It's also going to work for unweighted flies. It's going to drag that fly right down. So like, a scud, for instance, that's just it's gonna pull that under confidently. A leech, if it doesn't have a bead head, again, it's just gonna pull that fly down there and get that fly in the right zone, right? Now you have the line. Another tactic that you're gonna need, or another piece of gear that you're gonna need, is you're gonna need leaders. And when I fish leaders for the deep, I fish short leaders 100% on sinking lines. I love to fish a short leader. It ensures that I have better control and a better connection. I can detect strikes better, and everything's just amplified and basically makes it a lot more effective in detecting those strikes and making sure that I get that hook set for that trout. I like to opt for anywhere from a 4 to a 7.5 foot leader. You can also do from a 4, 7.5 to a 9 foot leader. I would not go bigger than a 9 foot leader if I was down in there. I honestly, truly, in my opinion, man, a 9 foot leader is still a bit long. I like to use it because it keeps my flies in that zone with the sinking line. It absolutely does. It's going to keep and ensure my flies in that strike zone. And it gives me way better control. Now that we've covered the gear in the getting down to the fly, the next question is mastering the depth and the control. So how do we get our lines down there or detect how far down we got to go? So the easiest way to do that obviously is sonar, right? So, we've detected that there's fish on the bottom, and how do we do that? So sonar is going to tell me that the fish are holding right on the bottom at 40 feet. So I can drop my fly line down there. Now, if you don't have sonar, another rule of method, and you assume that the fish are down there, or you've heard, or you just want to fish the deeps, right? Is you can do a countdown method. And I suggest everyone that does do fly line, sinking line, fly line casting, you do a countdown method. And I actually just have a super simple rule for countdown method. And basically every 10 seconds, is 1 foot of fly line going down. So basically, so if it's 40 feet, it's 40 seconds, you're on the bottom, right? That's just super quick. It's easy. The math is there instead of, 7 inches per second. Like it's just, it's a mess, right? So I feel like, prove me wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but I know that theory works. So that's kind of an easy method to do it. So you've got your flies, you've got your line, you've got it down there. Now, how do you get a fish to strike? And that's another thing. So you've got everything down to the fish on the bottom of the lake and they're in the feeding zone. How do you get that fish to strike? So ideally, you need slow, steady retrieves. Ideally, slow, steady retrieves, I find, are going to be the most productive when you're fishing that deep, because it's just what's naturally happening down there, right? So if it's the leech pattern, it's just naturally creeping along. Slow, steady retrieves. The chronomid pupa, again, they're just slow, steady coming up, and those would be your retrieves coming up as well, right? So everything is slower. Another thing, though, is short strips. Short strips are great. So you have your slow, steady retrieves. Short strips are highly effective as well, like strip, 2 to 4 inch strips. You know what I mean? Right along the bottom, very effective. Just pulling that fly right along the bottom is really good, especially for those blobs. Again, very effective, right? Leeches, blobs, woolly buggers, anything like a searching kind of pattern or something that's going to pull in a strike, a booby. If you're fishing a booby down deep like that, fantastic pattern, right? So you can also, if that's not working, there's no rules, absolutely do the roly-poly. It's a faster retrieve. You can trigger an aggressive strike, especially when trout are feeding or they're chasing bait fish, swimming insects or something like that. If you know that that's happening, you believe that's happening, man, just do it. Pull it up. Do it. Do a roly-poly. Make it happen. Make that fly just move. There's no harm in it, right? So again, that's another method. So those are the 3 kind of retrieves. So we've got the depth of, we've got the gear of getting down there. So the sinking lines and the leader from 4 to 7.5 to 9 feet, right? We found the structure. We did the countdown method, or we used our depth sounder. We've done a retrieve pattern because that's how we're going to induce a strike when we're under the water. But what the next question is, what flies work? So what flies are in the water in that depth? Well, right off the hop, flies that are going to work are chronomids, 100% chronomids. Use unweighted chronomid patterns, bead-headed patterns. It's going to look great. Again, there's different ways that you can, a variety of ways you can do it. One is the dangle. Another one is just that slow retrieve. So again, that slow retrieve, bring that up 2 to 4 inch strips. Very effective. Leeches and boobies, one of my favorite deep water patterns. Leeches, boobies are, again, highly effective. I really, really, really love fishing boobies in that deep water pattern, especially when I'm really trying to get an induced strike. Another way of fishing in that deep water pattern, which I don't want to get too involved with in this episode, is, a washing line rig, which again, great pattern, great way of fishing that depth water and covering a bit of water down there as well. So is that washing line rig set up? So if you're able to do that within your region. So bait fish patterns are great. So what I mean by that is when trout are feeding on small bait fish. So again, that would be streamers, woolly buggers. Love it. Love streamers, love woolly buggers. Casting streamers and woolly buggers all day long and stripping those in you're definitely gonna induce a strike in that deeper water. It's a lot of fun. Those fish, usually big fish, when they're going after those streamer patterns, they're aggressive, they're big, and that's when Stillwater really turns around and becomes a lot of fun. So those are the flies. So we've done the method, we've done the flies, we've done the distance, we've done the countdown, as well as the leader. So what else do you need? Right? Here's what you need. You need to be patient. That's the one thing that I can't give you. I can give you all the tips, but you need to be patient, because deep water fishing demands patience. It really, truly does. It's a lot of casts, a lot of retrieves, and a lot of empty casts and retrieves, right? These fish in these zones are not always so active, right? So you need to adjust your fishing tactics to their behavior. So if it's really slow and cold because their metabolism's slower, what you want to do is you need to really creep in a booby, 2 inches along the bottom, and you got 60 feet of fly line out. It's a long pull. So you need to slow that down and understand that you might have a lot of casts where nothing's happening before you get that strike. These fish are really, really lethargic down there most of the time, and you need to slow down that retrieve. You need to notice if fish are actively feeding so you can increase your retrieve. I mean, that is key. So if you're getting a lot of takes, that means they're actively feeding. If you're hit, bump, 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 these fish are feeding, right? So we can speed up that retrieve because maybe they'll swim after. So I need you to be really paying attention and key in on what's happening there. So how can we improve as an angler? Well, we need to understand the water for the deep water tactics. To understanding the water and the lake and the body of water we're fishing is, again, look at maps, look at Google Maps. You want to look for underwater humps. Mapping tools are great. Right? Mapping tools are key. Another way you can be a better angler for deep water tactics is practice casting with with sinking fly lines. Casting sinking fly lines, there's long distances. It's a lot of weight on a fly line or on a fly rod. The flex in that rod is going to be different. There's a lot of tungsten coating powder on that fly line. And if you got 70 feet of line out, that's a lot. I mean, if it's the wrong rod, you might even snap it. Right? So the little keys like that, I need you to practice just carrying that load of that line out there. So that's another thing too. Experiment with fly patterns is another key way that you can improve as an angler to fish that deeper water. So don't get stuck on one fly. You know what I mean? Rotate your patterns until you find what works is key. If your buddy caught it on a chronomid in the morning, don't be stuck on chronomids all day. If you're not getting nothing, switch that out. As always, log your success. Photos are great. Keep track, keep mental notes, just file it away in that Stillwater banks. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Stillwater Edge podcast, Mastering the Deep Water Tactics. It takes time and patience and persistence, but the rewards are worth it when you start landing those trophy trout that most anglers miss. Remember, the key to understanding why trout are holding deep, using the right gear, and adapting your tactics to their behavior. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show, leave me a comment, leave me a review. It would be great. Tight lines, and I will catch you guys again.